Hi, I'm Whack.
Hey, and I'm Pat. Thanks for joining us for our fifth episode of the Weekly Orbit. Today, this is the week ending Friday, October 25th, and it's been a really exciting week. Whack, we've got a lot to talk about. I'm glad we've got good vibes for the 75th episode. We've got
Yeah,
Constellation, node set, great news coming from that corner of the rocket pool universe. We've got the Saturn Zero coming up. We've got an awesome tweet thread by Jasper. He's back at it. So, how are you doing this week?
yeah, it's been wonderful. Like, I'm so happy right now. Like, Constellation's just been wonderful, and there's not just the fact that they're starting validators, which is really great. It's the vibes that are kind of coming with it, and there's a lot of hope in the community again. And I'm
Hmm.
kind of seeing that across different places, and that I think is the beginning of like you need that hope. You need people to like kind of expect there to be something. And sadly, there's been no hope in the rocket pool community for so long now that
Yeah,
I think people have kind of forgotten and people aren't kind of letting themselves hope, if that makes sense as well. Like they're kind of like,
right.
I got burned before and I'm not going to believe it this time. But there's shoots of hope that are starting to come through, and we just need a couple of things to kind of like work well in these next few weeks for that to really start blossoming. And that is something I'm really excited about.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. Let's touch on markets real quick. We're
Yeah.
back in this mid 2000 range on Ethereum, and we just can't.
Hmm.
We will break out of it at some point, but right now Ethereum's at 2,532. We
Yeah.
are
Down on the week.
down on the week. Let's move my cursor. Yeah, we're down about 3% on the week. We'll take
Yeah.
a look at RPL, and
Yeah.
RPL is about flat for the week. We're up 0.4% for the week at
So
$11.01. So that means, you know what that means? That means the
up
ETH
against
ratio
these.
is up. That's right.
Yeah.
And we had rewards night. Rewards was last night, and it was the first time in a while where the ratio was up from the month
Yep.
before.
Yeah.
So that's a sign. That's a sign. We got
Hopefully.
those
Hopefully. Yeah.
green sprouts of new growth coming.
Hmm.
Let's take a look. We didn't cover this last week, but we've got. Let's look at ETF flows. And the one thing I wanted to focus on here was I don't know if it was a couple weeks ago we were talking about the with the grayscale trust. People are withdrawing from that. It's a real drag, and we were at about 550 or 570 million in the hole. Well, we're down to about 475. So in about a couple weeks, we've eliminated that by 20%. So we're down to 475. Overall, the last week that have had positive inflows. It seems like the tide's turning out here a little bit. Just looking at the signs. What do you think about markets?
See, that's the thing. I agree with you, right? Like, I'm starting to see signs of things changing, but there's still so many unknowns, and there's a lot of fear in the market. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, you know, as much as like Ethereum ETFs like brought in like nearly $100 million over the last couple of weeks, which is pretty cool. Like Bitcoin in that same time has brought in $2 billion, right?
Mhm.
And like ETH has been kind of flat, but Bitcoin and Solana are up. So
Yep.
those kind of like that's really playing big tricks on people's psychologies right now. Like they're just seeing that ETH is flat, ETH is down, everything else is up. What's going on? Like it's leading to some really negative sentiment about Ethereum and ETH price and Ethereum blockchain as well, right? And all of these things are kind of coming together, and I feel like that is kind of hindering Rocket Pool a little bit too. Like I feel like if the ETH ecosystem was really positive and thriving right now, RPL would be doing better with that as well as a beta play. However, RPL is like Rocket Pool and RPL are building a really good foundation here. Like, we are seeing changes in TVL, we're seeing changes in like positivity and hope. So what I'm feeling is like that if the if the if price then I think things are going to shift very, very quickly. But I think it's mostly just related to the ETH price. And I think that as ETH price starts to show hope now and starts to show some strength, and it might be, weeks, maybe even months away before that starts happening, I think that's when RPL will like leap using that springboard. So those are the kind of things that I'm looking for here. And I'm trying to see, how it's all going to play out. But the reality is that, Rocket Pool is part of the Ethereum ecosystem, and the Ethereum ecosystem right now is quite like not good. Like I know, and I'm not saying not good
No,
as the
I think the
ecosystem is
fundamentals
not
are
good.
great.
The fundamentals are the best like I think they've
Great,
ever been.
actually.
I think the vibes is what I'm saying are not good,
Yeah.
and people it's really getting people down. So I think once that kind of changes and people become more positive ETH, then I think Rocket Pool is in a really really good position to like really leap forward from here. So as a
Yeah, me too.
protocol, like about the RPL price, who knows what's going to happen, but with the protocol, like we've got some really great stuff lined up that's going to help growth tremendously, and I'm really ready to see that. So it's going to be
Yeah.
exciting.
I
Yeah.
These things just go in cycles. I mean, I remember not too long ago, well, maybe it was a couple of years back, we were talking about the flippening, and ETH was the rage, and then these things they sway back and forth. I just think that the BTC trade that was something to do a year or two, 1 or 2 years ago, right, compared to ETH.
2 years ago.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and it's kind of we're coming to that part of the cycle where like, well, the the contrarian bet here is Ethereum and its ecosystem because yeah, that BTC trade is getting a little stale. It will. I mean, I just think these things eventually come around. And during these last couple of years, Ethereum has been building like crazy. The fundamentals are great. The L2 ecosystem's exploding. Base is killing it. You've got look at Rocket Pool that we know so well is coming out with
Yeah.
its complete revamp, and we are now at the precipice of that. You zoom out a little bit, things are good. We'll get there. It's not financial advice, but just stay put.
No.
I think it'll be good. Go ahead. You want one last comment?
Yeah, I was going to say that one thing that I've learned from previous cycles is for people who kind of chase the pump, always catch that pump after it's already pumped.
Yeah.
Like I've seen so many people lose value in their portfolio by trying to chase the next hot thing. Like, a few months ago it was Solana, and then all of a sudden it was Sui, and then like Aptos, and now it looks like it's Solana again. And people who kind of like jumping from chain to chain, I think what's kind of happening is that they are missing the pumps. You know how you've talked about this a few times, right? Like, the biggest gains in the market are made like 10 days out of the whole cycle. And
11 days,
whatever, right? Like, such few number of days, right? And if you're getting into that product after it's pumped, you already missed that big day, right? Like, so you're just not going to get as many of those days. I think what's worked best for me in the past is you pick an asset that you believe in, that you trust, and you stick with it, and you kind of get those, you try to get all 11 of those days. And if you can get that, you'll end up in a really strong position. But you might not be as strong as something else, right? Like, you might not be as, you might have been, if you go back in time to December 2022, right? FTX has just collapsed. If you had gone all in on Solana back then,
At
when Sol
$8.
was at $8, and RPL at that time was $30, okay? It was $30. Now RPL is $10, $11, and Sol is 165. So, your portfolio just would have been like completely different if you had done that. But the thing is, like, I'm hoping that, in the long run, RPL will still treat you well. Maybe not as well as, if Solana, if you had done that then. However, if you swap all your RPL for Solana now, maybe Solana will go up another 3, 4, 5x. That would be great for Solana, right? Like, it'd be up there with the big boys, $400-500 billion market cap. That's huge for Solana. However, RPL from here, I'm hoping, I'm not, of course, this is not financial advice, but I'm hoping we'll do more than that, right? Like, so again, these trades were the ones to be made 2 years ago. They're not the trades to make now. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe, you'll still end up ahead if you switch your RPL to Solana right now. There's a chance that would happen. Maybe that would happen if you switch your ETH to Solana as well. But for me, I'm not taking that risk now. And that's why I'm just going to stay with the bags that I have. And, I'm following that rule number 1, don't get blown up. And another way of getting blown up is by chasing the shiny thing. And if you keep chasing the shiny thing, you're going to miss it every time. They're going to miss every shiny thing. So that's just me kind of wrapping up that part.
No, that's good.
Yeah,
Because you don't want to sell high. You want to buy low, sell high. In an ideal world, that's hard to do. That's hard to do sometimes. You don't know where the lows are. You don't know where the highs are. But
exactly.
You can. I think you can get a better feel of don't buy high and sell low. Like I think that's easier to see, and I think a lot of folks who are chasing end up in that boat. So, but
that's
hey,
the thing, and then and the portfolio value might go up in dollar terms, like overall, but in terms of like ETH or BTC, like if you use like a crypto value as your measurement, then it's more likely that you'll be down, right? Like study after study after study has shown people who buy and hold good assets, they outperform people who trade like every single time, pretty much on a long enough
Yeah, I
timeline.
mean, we've got
So
just been so many
yeah,
of those stories we've seen where there's a, I think there's a bot on Twitter that like they follow like old wallets that they haven't been touched in years, maybe 10 years. All of a sudden it's activated. And this person who had like 200 Bitcoin back in 2014 just opened it and now they've got, millions of dollars in there.
millions.
But it's because they didn't touch it. It was
Hmm.
lost in their sock drawer or something.
Yep.
you
Yeah.
know, and all those years they didn't trade it away and now they're sitting pretty. So
That's it.
anyways,
That's what it comes down to.
yeah, let's look at some awesome constant. So first, we're going to talk about node set, but I want
Yeah.
to get the nomenclature right. When we refer to our layer 2 rocket pool, are we going to call it node set or are we going to call it constellation? What do you think? Because when I'm posting in Discord or if I'm on Twitter, what is it? What do we want to do here? How do we
Constellation.
make sure that we want to say constellation from now on? Is
Yeah.
that
Yeah, so it's okay. So node set provide the node operators. That's all they do, and then
right?
Gravita are the ones who are running the software, right? They're running the contract, so they're the ones who are, using XRETH and XRPL and stuff. They are like node set's just node operators, so it's not really node set. And then Gravita also have their stablecoin business that they have. So I think calling it Constellation is kind of what I'm doing here.
Okay.
But you can call it like Node Sets Constellation or Gravitas Constellation. But Constellation is what it is really, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I'm
even
just
on this
curious
rocket
about
sweep
that.
here, it says node set mini pools and node set XRE deposits and node set XRPL deposits. So I think all of those should just be like Constellation, Constellation, Constellation. So yeah,
Okay. So
yeah.
let's take a look at the stats here. We've got it's kind of hard to see. I'm trying to blow this up a little bit. I don't know if we can do that. Nope. Let's go back.
That's okay. You
The
can
three,
just describe it.
yeah, three. So we're at as of this morning, the Constellation has created 394 mini pools. We've got 121 node operators online. Are you one of those yet? I know you spun up your testnet. Are you now officially a node operator for NodeSet?
Yeah, I got through testnet over the weekend, and then I got my first validator on Sunday, and I got my second
Oh, cool.
validator last night. So my first one now up in the testing as well. So it's
Are
really
you running
exciting.
it on a separate machine or are you doing it on your,
Yeah.
how are you doing
So
it?
yeah, so the node set guys recommend that you have a separate machine, and I think that's because of abundance of caution. Like you don't want to mix your own money, especially since your Rocket Pool node is a hot wallet and it has the keys on there. So if something bad happens, bad things can happen basically, right? Like, so don't do that. That's the official line. But there are a lot of people in the Rocket Pool community who are running Hyperdrive on their actual same node as they're running their Rocket Pool stuff on. And I think that's fine. Like, it's just, if you want to be super cautious, then set up a second node. For me, I already had a Proteus lying around that I bought and had never actually unpacked. I
Oh,
bought it because I wanted to support. I bought it because I wanted to support Joe, right?
Joe.
And
Yeah.
because I love Joe, and I wanted to support Joe. And the idea that I had was I'll use it as a rocket pool testnet and just like do Haleshki rocket pool on there. But I never was incentivized to do it really. Like the POAP for a POAP wasn't enough basically. So what ended up happening is I just left it in this box. And then once NodeSet launched, I think because I know Nick and Wander like quite well, like I called them my friends, and I was just like, "Hey guys, like, are you gonna let me go straight to mainnet like I did with my Rocket Pool validator?" And they're like, "No." And I was like, "Ah, damn it!" So I kind of had to get into testnet. So that's fine.
Yeah.
It's good because no special deals for friends, which is good. But what's happening basically is that I went through testnet and I got my first validator I think on Sunday night and my second validator last night, and they're doing great. So why don't you tell us about what it is, and then I can tell you about how I feel about the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's look over the stats.
Yeah.
Constellation's been killing it this last week. We've got over 12,000 ETH staked. We have got over 325,000 RPL staked. We've got, let's go through the deposits. Now we've got 63 depositors so far for our ETH, XR ETH, and we've got 35 depositors of RPL. Let's stop there for a sec. It's not that many people, and look at the amount of impact it has had. Imagine if we had, at some point, I hope we do, but we go from 63 depositors for XR ETH, and we've got 630 depositors, or 335 depositors for XRPL, and we've got 350. Imagine what those numbers look like. Look what we've done in just a week, and we'll get to the deposit pool in a second, but you can see here, last night we had ETH, realcapital.eth, which I believe is Marceau, made a huge deposit, 50,000 RPL. If we click here, I think we had, but yeah, there he is, 500 ETH last night as well. So the stats look great. Let's take a look at some more stats before the deposit pool. Now, you and I had talked about this last week. We made predictions. You said, Pat, this time next week on the recording, where are we going to be on the rocket pool, deposit pool? And I said, I think we were around 38,000. I said, I'll say 35,000. You said, you're hoping to be 30,000. Well, it looks like we blew past that. You were right. You weren't bullish enough.
Yep.
88 is what's left in that rocket pool deposit pool. So the way that works is the Constellation deposit pool will have, you put your 8 ETH, they accumulate 8 ETH, and once they've got 8 ETH, they'll match that up with 24 from the rocket pool deposit pool, and then make a 32 ETH validator. So that looks really good. I think I got one more stat here. And the smoothing pool, I put on Twitter by the other day, by the end of the day, NodeSet will be the largest node operator on Rocket Pool. I should have said largest node operator in the smoothing pool. And as of yesterday, a Constellation Supernode has 373 mini pools and is now the largest node operator within the smoothing pool. So all these stats look awesome. It's been a real good to see. I mean, you're all smiles, I'm smiles too. I'm sure Nick and Wander are also happy about this launch. There's a lot of buzz. I know Anthony Sassano's mentioned on the Daily Way. People are starting to talk. It's creating that vibe that you mentioned. We got the Discord seems more active. People are talking more. So all good things, and we got more good things to come. But so far, what do you think of Constellation?
Yeah, it's been amazing. Like really, really wonderful. Like it's not all blue skies. Like I'll be honest. Like there are a couple of things that let's focus on the negatives first, and then we'll talk about the positives. A couple of negatives are that a lot of the TVL that is coming in is concentrated in the hands of like a few whales who are making big deposits, and because of that, the TVL is growing well. So, like you said, Marceau has put in a lot of RPL. Like I think there's 350,000 RPL somewhere around there, 325,000 RPL. I think about 250 or more than that is from Marceau alone. So that is something that's slightly concerning. The second thing is like with the ETH deposits as well, like, there's been, 63 ETH depositors, but the bulk of the ETH that they've had, 3,600 has come from a few people. That's the first like slight negative that I can find. The second slight negative is that there's like every day there seems to be like a bit of a bottleneck where people are just kind of waiting for deposits to come, and then there's a deposit and then they kind of jump on it like node operators, right? So that period of where there's wait happening is people like kind of just like wait, are there going to be more deposits? Those are the negatives like that. And those aren't even really negatives, right? And I'll kind of explain why they're not negatives. So the first thing is the reason why it's not negative that the whales are depositing is like you want to see TVL grow in those first few days because that creates hype, right? TVL is a real number where people are putting real dollars into a protocol. They're showing that, hey, we trust this protocol, this protocol works, this protocol is good. And that TVL, then the thing that comes from that is more people will see it and they'll start trusting it as well. Whales are a great way to grow in the beginning, especially when your community is small, right? Like NodeSet's a brand new project. Like, the main community for NodeSet is, these 250 node operators who have been approved by NodeSet. So it's a small community that, and Gravita is not that big a protocol either. It's not like an Aave or something. You know what I mean? If this was Aave's constellation, it'd be a completely different ball game. Like it just would be next level huge. Now, so with those things in mind, like what you want to see is you want to see growth happening. So even though the growth's happening in stops and starts, like last week, I think I was talking to Halululo and we were kind of thinking, how many validators will NodeSet get before October 28th, before Saturn Zero goes live? And he was saying like 250. And I was like, I think it's going to be like 500. And that 500 number right now is looking conservative, right? Like, we've still got 3 days to go, 4 days to go before Saturn Zero goes live. And we're at 394. There's 120 node operators online who are waiting. The limit currently is set to 4 validators each. If all of those people get one validator, that's 484 validators. However, I think, with a couple of good deposits that come in, that number should hopefully go above 500, which is just phenomenal. Like that's a really, really, really strong showing. In terms of, the impact on Rocket Pool, amazing, absolutely amazing. Nearly 10,000 ETH has come out of the deposit pool because of Constellation. They've taken 3,152 ETH from people depositing into Gravita, but they've got 9,004. Actually, it was on the Rocket Sweep page that we were already on. Like you could see on the left side that they've taken 9,400 ETH out of the deposit pool. That right there, look, it's come from our ETH, 9,456. That is the deposit pool going down by 25%, which is fantastic. In a week, and they've still got another few days, right, before they, before Saturn Zero, I think will drain the rest of it, and then things are going to get a bit competitive, I think. But they've had a free run for 2 weeks, and I think they're doing a really good job of it so far. I think Nick and Wanda and like the team there, Joe, the rest of them, they really do deserve, a round of applause for a successful launch, and absolutely. But I think. Yeah, because I see you, I hear you. But I think one of the things that we have to realize is as well, though, is how scaling with Rocket Pool is limited, right? Because what's happening is, these guys have got on 325,000 ETH deposited. Sorry, not ETH. I'm sorry. One day, hopefully, RPL. But what's happening is, they're struggling to grow because they're RPL limited, right? They've set limits on themselves to hold a certain collateral percentage, and they're hitting that many times because some ETH is coming in, but they can't do anything with it because of the RPL collateral. Now, there's 2 ways that they can grow with that, right? One is if the ratio goes up, then they've got the RPL they need. That has showing small signs of maybe going up, but it hasn't really gone up that much. And the second thing is that they can get more RPL, and that is difficult to get. So Marceau's already pretty much drained out his Aave position that he had and putting pretty much all into Constellation. And now the next thing is like, where's the other RPL going to come from? So that as a general idea, I'm talking not specifically about Constellation here, but that I think kind of shows you the limitation of growing a protocol while needing 2 tokens at the same time, because unless you have both tokens kind of growing together, you hit bottlenecks over and over again. And I think this is what the Rocket Pool community kind of realized, and we put limits on that, right? We said, okay, you don't need RPL anymore, because we saw that it was being a huge limit on growth. And I think hopefully NodeSet, Constellation even will be able to take advantage of this from next week, in that they can reduce their collateral amount that they want for the new validators, and they could still get so much of their rewards, but like massively grow their TVL. So I think that this has been fantastic, but it also kind of vindicates the Rocket Pool community by changing the way that RPL is needed on the protocol. So that was a whole lot of things I said there, but overall, even though I mentioned some negatives, I think this has been a wonderful, wonderful launch, and I'm incredibly happy that we have Constellation, and I'm incredibly happy that it's run by guys from the Rocket Pool community, and they're doing good stuff.
It's great. About the RPL, I just brought up the Aave page. I think, right now the supply, you're getting 52% or about, if you supply RPL to the Aave vault. And I think that could be that's part of the reason there's a little bit of a drag. And the reason that went up is because Marceau, who was a whale in that pool, pulled out 300,000, or I'm not sure how much total RPL.
Yeah.
So he pulls that out. Now there's less RPL in the vault, which means the optimization, the more people are, that the rate's going to go up for those who supply. And so until we get that, that'll eventually come down. I think probably the long-term rate there is probably around 5%, right?
Yeah.
And
One
until
of the
that
things that I'm
happens, it
looking,
might be a drag.
one of the things I'm looking at though, right, is like, look, this Aave pool here has capacity for like 300,000 RPL to go into there, and there's offering 50% yield, which is astronomically high, and people aren't filling it up, right? So you have to think, look, RPL's token 20 million supply, 21 million supplies, whatever it is right now, and 50% of that is being staked, right? So we've got nearly 11 million of it staked, and we have 500,000 in Aave, and now we've got 700,000 in Constellation, but that leaves another 8 million RPL. Like, where is that RPL? What are people doing with the RPL? And it's just people are sat on it, right? Like, there's not that much in terms of liquidity on the dexes, like we've talked about many times on the show. People aren't putting it in like liquidity positions. So what are people doing with it? They just sat on it. The team is sat on 100, no, not 100 million. This team is sat on a million, 1.5 million RPL. That's doing nothing. I think the team's RPL is still actually old RPL. They haven't even moved it to new RPL yet.
Version 1.
Yeah, and then you've got people like Patricio who are still sat on a million RPL. So there's these pockets of RPL that people aren't doing anything with. So I'm going to be really curious to see what happens with that. Like, because the amount of RPL in the market's diminishing, right? And if Aave can't attract RPL giving 50% rates, then who is going to be able to attract RPL? So that's something that I think, is something to pay attention to in terms of Constellation. However, like I just said, that's going away on Sunday, so that won't be a problem for them anymore, right? So hopefully they'll still be able to keep growing and scaling, and they're gonna do wonderful things. I'm absolutely certain of that. And we'll talk about Jasper's thread later as well, about some of the really cool things that will be coming with Constellation. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about Rocket Pool first.
Yep. Yeah, let's talk about the Rocket Pool. The team gave a roadmap update, and so they just hit on a few things. Obviously, we know about the Houston hotfix, which is going to allow us to have Saturn 0. So they've been working hard on that. They've talked about the team's plans for DevNets for the Saturn 1, which will come after Saturn 0. You covered this in your show, and we'll have it on a chart. We're expecting a plan over the next 9 months for Saturn 1. They touched on, we've been talking about version 2 of the smart node, and they've put this on pause as they're working on Saturn 0 and the rewards tree. So I would expect that they'd probably pick this back up after the first rewards tree is implemented, which would be next month, about 28 days, because we just had the reward
last night.
Yesterday, right? So perhaps that's something in December or January that we'll be looking at as version 2 of the smart node. So this was just Langers had updated us with their priorities, what they've been doing. And core development, Saturn 1, a timeline. And this was nice, kind of gives us out. Let's take a look at this chart. We've got January, they're expecting the first DevNet, and then DevNet, it looks like around every maybe 6 weeks, we'll say.
6 weeks.
Right. So January, March, April, May, June will be the timelines for, looks like 4 DevNets and then a testnet. And then we're looking at hopefully July of 25 for the mainnet launch of Saturn 1, which the team will be delivering 4 ETH mini pools. We'll get a few other things with that. Man, I wish this was faster, but hey, we got a timeline now. Hopefully we can stick to it. Perhaps we can speed it up a little bit, but it's software. These things, there's always bumps in the road. Things sometimes take longer than we want. But this is let's just touch on this real quick. It's kind of a new format that the team is taking with the DevNets, kind of similar to Ethereum and how they do their releases. So any comments?
Yeah, I think going back to like the work that's already been done, the main thing there was the smart node version 2. I think the team wanted to get that out before they went to DevConnect, which is in Thailand in a couple of weeks' time. They wanted that out, but there was inconsistencies with rewards tree version 10 between smart node version 1 and smart node version 2, and because of that, they just want to kind of like put things on pause and and come back to it, I think, after they come back from Thailand. So we'll get the next rewards period with version 10, like you said. And then after that, most likely end of November, maybe beginning of December, we'll get Smart Node version 2, which is really exciting. Now, going back to Saturn 1 timeline, I'm thinking that it's really interesting, right? Because there's some people in the community, like Noshua, who think that this timeline might actually be a little bit ambitious because the time for auditing is not that long. When it says June 2025, like audited some beta testing, and then July 2025 is launch. So normally, we think that it takes like 3 months to go through the audit cycle and getting to launch from there. However, I think the team's actually kind of following what the NodeSet guys did with their audits, in that get a couple of audits done early, get people to look at the code, and then as the next audits are happening, you already have test nets running. And the worst thing is that you spin down that test net and bring up a new test net when you've got changes, like breaking changes. But testing while auditing, I think, has worked quite well for NodeSet. But NodeSet is a much smaller product. Constellation is a much smaller product than Saturn 1. Saturn 1 is going to be much bigger. So there's that side that says that, it might be more than July, like that might be a little bit ambitious. The other side, however, is that whenever we hear the team talking about Saturn 1 development, like every single time Langas has talked about it, he's like, I'm surprised by how well things are going. I'm surprised by how well we're progressing. And, he said that in GMC calls, he said that on community calls, and every single time he's saying that, this is going really well. And Langas is not the kind of person who, kind of makes statements like that, because he tries to keep expectations in check. So I think that is kind of the opposite side of that, where it might be the case where, we do hit some of these targets and things go well. So I think, July is a nice target. That actually, if it works out that way, it might coincide with like a wider crypto secular bull run. One of the things that I really like about this roadmap, and with the DevNets especially, is like every 6 weeks, every 2 months, there's another like bullish catalyst. You know what I mean? There's something for the community to talk about, and that I think is really exciting because it kind of builds this hype ladder. Like the hype ladder is like, you're demoralized, whatever, and then something happens, you kind of go up a level, and you go up another level, and you go up another level, and you need those like catalysts to kind of like push you from one level to the next. And that's a hype ladder, right? Like, you climb the hype ladder. And what I think, Saturn Zero is going to do now is wipe out the deposit pool, which is going to hype people. And then if it was just like, we've got Saturn Zero, the deposit pool's wiped out, we've got some queues, we've got some TVL growing, and then things kind of reach a plateau, then for a long time, for the next 9 months, they'd be like, we're just looking forward to Saturn 1. Like there wouldn't be any like tangible like catalysts to kind of keep people excited and keep people hyped up. And with this DevNet roadmap, I think what's really happening is, every 6 weeks, like I said, there'll be a new thing happening for people to get their attention to come back to Rocket Pool, right? We'll have DevNet 1. We're like, hey, look, we're checking the deposit process. Look, it's so cool. This is working. And then like 6 weeks later, hey, look, we're doing the ETH rewards and distribution. Like, go check the DevNet. And then 6 weeks after that, it's like, hey, we're doing RPL voting and staking and all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And every 6 weeks, there'll be that, new catalyst to get people to pay attention to what's happening again. So keeping attention is so important for crypto projects because attention moves so fast in crypto. But whatever you can do to keep attention on your project and show people that you're doing really cool things, I think that, is an incredibly strong sign. So even though Saturn 1 might come later than expected, the way in which we will be getting Saturn 1, I think will actually lend to more positivity about the protocol as a whole. And if we can hit that July target, because this is the first time the team's actually given a time for an update, right? They're just like in writing, it literally is in writing there, like July 2025. I think if we can keep hitting that target, then people will get more excited going into it. Delays will always kind of like dampen that excitement. So I'm hoping that, we can avoid that. But this is really, really positive. Like it's really good.
Yeah. I think it's kind of a cool way to do this as well, because in the past, the team would be working on the code, and we go about a year, we hear a lot of talk, and then a year goes by, and then all of a sudden there's a test net, and then the guys can jump in and start playing with it. Here, starting in January, hopefully, people will start being able to play, and there's going to be, a DevNet 1, 2, 3, 4, or is it going to be open, those DevNets? Is could someone, or is that just for the team? The team's only going to be able to play with it, right?
No, it's actually going to be hybrid, right? So it won't be open to everyone. It'll just be open to select people in the community. So I'm
Okay.
thinking of people like Noshua,
Right.
Halululo, and others who have,
Very
really interacted
technical.
with testnet, technical people who've interacted with the testnets before. So there may be
Hmm.
like 10 or 20 people who they know that, these people have given really good feedback before. They're really good at testing out things. And I think those people will be the ones involved in the DevNet. I think one of the things that we're also going to do is the GMC has talked quite a lot about kind of facilitating the development of Saturn 1. So the GMC will probably be putting money into like getting people testing the DevNets. So, the team or the community will kind of decide on who the people are. And then the GMC will give them some money to like go and do that work. So it might not be much, but it'll be something, which is more than they were getting before, more than just a
Right.
pour up, right? They can actually get some cash. But I think
Well,
that will help facilitate things. Yeah.
so I mentioned, keeping the hype going. Those folks you mentioned, those 10 or 20 who are very technical, are also some of the most prominent and active people in Rocket Pool and Discord and on Twitter. So those people are going to be talking about the deposit process, the ETH rewards distribution penalties, the staking rewards, voter share. They're going to be constantly churning out, active tweets and posts on Discord. So
Yeah.
I think this is a kind of a cool way to do it. It makes it more transparent. And also by putting this in writing, I think the team is going to be held, their feet are going to be held to the fire, which in the past we've had, oh, well, we'll get, we're going to get to it. We don't want to tell you exactly when we're going to have this release because we don't know. Here we got it in writing. I think that's good for transparency and accountability. So let's move on. Jasper, talk about hype. He came out with this monster thread. I think it's 42 tweet thread. I think he said it actually, Twitter has a max for 42. You can't go over that. He had more to say, and he's talking about the 4 steps to Rocket Pool 2.0. He's going to talk about Constellation, which is now live, Saturn 0, which is coming this Sunday for Monday for Australia, Sunday for just about everybody else. Saturn 1, LEV4s, Saturn 2, sublinear bonding down to 1.5 ETH plus PL buy and burn. You're going to cover this in your show today, I think, so we're not going to spend a ton of time on this, but it's off to Jasper. The guy's in medical school. I think he's on break right now, which is going to be ending soon, but I've really enjoyed him coming back and bull tweeting. I've reposted a whole bunch of his stuff. I love it. So hats off to him. I know he's super busy, but he takes the time to really put together a massive thread here. It's everything you want to know. He's got beautiful visuals, which I think people
Made
from
by Schifrin.
Schifrin had helped him out on this. These are just really gorgeous pictures.
Yeah.
It's nice. I went through it last night. It's 42 pages, but it doesn't take that long. I probably had this read in about 5 minutes or less. So
Yeah.
I'll have this posted here, but this kind of lays out. We're trying to create a buzz here about Rocket Pool, and I think this is going to go a long way to it. I'm sure Anthony Sassano will have this featured on his show today or tomorrow. Any thoughts on Jasper? I know you're going to do a show on it later.
Yeah. So one of the things is like people who watch, every episode of Rocket Fuel and people who watch every episode of the Weekly Orbit, there won't be much new information in this. Like we're not the audience for this thread, right? And that's one of the things that Jasper does really well is that he's got like a really strong Twitter following of people who are not just like rocket poolers, like other Ethereum people from other ecosystems. And what Jasper does really well is like, distill down the key piece of information and gets it out to as many people as possible. Now, that's awesome, right? Like that's a huge skill that Jasper has that many people don't have. And I think what, the stuff that he covered in here was how Constellation works and how Saturn 0 is going to work. And Saturn 1 and Saturn 2 are going to be left for a thread, I think, coming next week or maybe soon. But he just kind of touches on them, what the high level stuff about what that's going to be like. A couple of things here really interesting about what he says about Constellation. One of the things he said was, because XRETH is going to have 100% solo staking rewards, right? So, that reward there is going to be higher than RETH and much higher than RETH, 14% higher than RETH, but even higher than Lido's STETH.
Yep.
Now, and, comparable, like maybe stronger than like, some of these LRT tokens as well, because they're not getting that revenue yet. Now, what that will do is when it comes to using XRETH in DeFi, you're going to get a virtuous cycle in that people will do folding and looping, right? Like the stuff that's not been available to our ETH because our rewards rate is either not enough or compared to like the ETH borrowing rate on Aave or other services, what's going to happen is XR ETH will have stronger rewards, so that gap will be bigger. So you can like deposit your XR ETH,
Yeah.
borrow ETH, and then go and mint more XR ETH and just do that over and over again. And you can do that. The more times you do it, the less safe it gets. But if you can do that a few times, that is going to be a huge bull catalyst for XR ETH and for it to grow really strongly. And then like we were saying, when you detach that from requiring RPL as well, they're gonna grow really well. I think Constellation, I think, is going to perform very strongly. But sadly, that stuff is a few months away. But the possibilities are much stronger with XR ETH than they are with RETH, which is really cool. Now, when it comes to Saturn Zero, some of the points Jasper made, we already know how it's going to work. Like, you'll pay 10%. If you have RPL, then you can go up to 14%. All that kind of stuff. We already know how, we're trying to build up TVL for Saturn, because at Saturn 1, the TVL will be directly related to, income coming into RPL, which is going to be a fee switch of sorts. That's going to be really strong as well. So these things, Jasper, I think, did a really good job of kind of explaining it to a wider audience. But for you, me, for people who watch, Weekly Orbit and Rocket Fuel, there won't be too much in there that's new. But this is really great. And I never ask people to like or subscribe or any of that kind of stuff, but if you are watching this and if you haven't gone and retweeted and liked Jasper's post and left a comment, like, those things are really important for us to get a wider audience looking at it. And the more people who look at it, the more people become aware of Rocket Pool. The more people become aware of Rocket Pool, the quicker they get on that hype ladder that we want them to get on, and not hype ladder necessarily, like attention ladder. And that would just be good for everyone. So please go and read Jasper's thread. And even if there's not new stuff in there, engage with it, give it a like, give it a retweet, leave a comment,
Absolutely.
quote tweet, all of that good stuff, just so more and more people can see it. And it's amazing. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about wins for the week. I'll start with mine. As I mentioned to you and our viewers, I moved recently. I put my node on the rescue node while I was transitioning. I think I had it on there for like 10 days or something. It was for a while. And then, is it yesterday or the day before, I found like, okay, I got to get this node back on my system and not rescue node. Well, I upgraded the software. I did my software updates, turned it on. Everything seemed to be going well. Then I woke up in the morning, I looked at Grafana, and I got an email that said my validators have been offline for like three or four epochs earlier that morning. I look at Grafana and my memory, my RAM is like maxed out. I'm like, what's going on here? So I go into support, and I just want to give a shout out to Patches and Lee. They helped me with my node. It turns out I was running Nethermind, which there was a little bug. There's a memory drain bug that we had to manually update, which I didn't know. So I went and manually updated it, restarted, boom. Now the thing is humming and testing just like before, and it's beautiful. I love seeing it. I check it like a couple times a day. I'm like looking at it, and oh man, it's great. Look at that attestation rate's so high, and it's great. So, but anyways, I want just a shout out to Rocket Pool, all the guys in support who help people like me who I'm not super technical, and it's just such a great resource. I had it, those guys, they had me fixed in 5-10 minutes. It was about boom boom. And I could just go on with the rest of my day. So if you're considering running a node, again, you're watching this, you love Rocket Pool, but it's the support and the documentation is really stellar. So that's my win for the week. How about you?
My win is becoming a node operator. I think that little community, it's like a little bit of a gated community where there's certain threads on their Discord that are only available to people who have become node operators. And there's so much excitement in there, and there's so much like joy. I feel like it's very akin to when Rocket Pool launched on mainnet, nearly 3 years ago now. It feels very much like that, right? And people who are kind of helping each other and kind of like a friendly competition about who's going to get more validators online first. And it's just, there's a lot of excitement in there, and there's a lot of like familiar faces as well. So it very much feels like home away from home, in that
Mm-hmm.
like most of the node operators on node set, are rocket pool node operators, right? So we see them in trading. There's faces that we haven't seen in a while, posting so much in the rocket pool community, who are more active in the node set one, and it's just really nice to see those people there. So that's my win for the week, is just getting my node set validators online and kind of finding this nice little group of people who are having such a good time right now, and rightly so, so that's my win for the week.
Yeah, it's so exciting seeing everyone engaged and everyone talking and checking the charts, hitting refresh. That's we've been waiting for these days for so long, and now it's here. And we get this weekend, we'll have Saturn Zero launch, so even more to talk about, more to get excited about. We'll have all that next week's episode. I can't wait. So thanks for watching.
Wait. Sorry for stopping you. Let's make a prediction of what the deposit pool is going to look like next week.
Monday night is when it's going to, around
Yeah.
7 p.m. ish, 7 p.m. Eastern time,
Yeah.
is when we expect it to go live, right? Just after
Is it
7
no 8 p.m. 8 p.m.
Eastern time? Okay.
Yeah. Because it's
So,
midnight UTC.
yeah. So let's see.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, we'll say 3.5, we'll say 3.5 business days between then and next Thursday when we record. I say we're down to, I'm going to be conservative. I say by next Thursday, we're down to 16,000.
I'm shaking my head so hard right now for people who are listening. I'm so disappointed in you, Pat. Oh, you have little faith. I'm
Oh, I know.
shocked. We're going to be down to 0.
Oh,
And we'll
wow.
have,
Okay.
yeah, and we'll have a
I
queue of
just
node
got
operators as well.
PTSD from making
No,
you're I'm the yin, you're the yang, right? So,
we're gonna be down to 0. I think we're going to see a bunch of things. So we're going to see new node operators coming online, and I've got a feeling we're going to see one new mega whale come online, and this is a person with like 100 plus validators. I've got a feeling we're going to see that. That might happen on Monday or Tuesday though, and they might have to like queue. That's fine. Another thing we're going to see, I think we'll see some solo staker migrations. I don't know how many, but I think that will start trickling up again because we've not seen any of those for a long time. Another thing we'll see is a lot of bond reductions. So people who are on 16 ETH validators going down to 8 ETH validators. So those are the 3 things I'm looking for. And the strongest out of all of those is the bond reductions. We're going to see a lot of those because there's just no reason to be on 16 ETH validators anymore. The next is I think we'll see some new node operators coming online. And finally, I think a smaller number, but we'll see some solo staker migrations. So those are the 3 things I'm looking for. I think all of those 3 things together will mean we'll have a 0 RETH deposit pool. And on top of that, I'm also going to make a prediction that we are going to get one big deposit into the deposit pool, potentially of up to 10,000 RETH. So that's my constellation of predictions for next week. So let's see how it works out.
Yeah, I guess some of those folks might be gas sensitive in terms of when they're spinning up the mini pool. Now, if you got
Gas, see,
you got a ton of ETH, you don't care, you're a whale. But I think for some of these smaller people, they're like, I'll wait till next weekend.
no, but here's the thing. So gas is okay for something like Constellation. You're paying gas out of pocket and you're only getting a small percentage of the rewards, right? So like you need 19 Constellation validators to be the equivalent of one solo validator. So you're paying gas 19 times to get the rewards of one solo validator. So that makes a lot of sense for those people to be very gas sensitive. And even with that gas sensitivity, gas is going down to 5 GUI every night. So people are still spinning up validators. With Rocket Pool, however, you get a lot more profitable a lot more quickly. So with the same level of gas sensitivity of wanting to be profitable in 2 months, you could do that like at 15 GUI even, I think. So that is the daytime gas. You can that gas will be hitting every day. So I don't think gas is going to be as much of an issue going into the next week. Like it's not going to be like a mainnet launch where it was 100 GUI or like plus. It's going to be in the single digits like every day. So people who want to spin up validators will be able to do that. But that's my group of predictions. So there's like a completely different, like opposite end of the spectrum from yours. So let's see who wins out.
Let's hope. I hope you win out just like you did this last
I hope
week.
so too. I hope so too. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, joining. Not financial advice. Stay tuned next week. We'll see where I hope I'm wrong, and I hope Mac is right. And we'll have 0 in the deposit pool, and we will be talking about it. And we'll be like, and that, geez, then we'll have then we'll have a different problem. We're like, who's going to deposit ETH? We've got all these validators, potential validators sitting around, and we can't match them up. So we'll talk about that next week. But until then, Whack, I will see you, and thanks for watching. Take care.
See you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.